Very good afternoon to all. Thanks to all for joining today's talk. It's kind of talk, but it is more of a health awareness program. And I'm very happy for all the people who have joined to listen to this talk about heart disease. I'm Dr. Anupam Jena. I'm consultant cardiologist at Kalinga Institute of Medical Sciences in Bhubaneswar, Odisha. So I am in this field of cardiology for around 10 years now. And today our topic of discussion will be heart disease. So all things that are related to cardiac disease, like what is heart disease, how to diagnose heart disease, how to treat, how to prevent, so many things we'll discuss. First of all, let's talk about something like what is heart disease and why it is so serious, why it is so important that we should try to learn about cardiac disease. Okay. So heart disease means it is not a single term. It is just a syndrome, or it is just an anatomical diagnosis where one part of the heart is diseased. Basically, broadly speaking, our heart has five parts. One is the muscles of the heart. Second is the coronary artery, or the arteries that supply blood to the heart muscles. Third is the valves of the heart. The valves regulate the flow of blood inside and out of the heart. Then the covering of the heart, and finally the electrical system of the heart that regulates our heartbeat. So a disease affecting any of these five components is a heart disease. So it is a broad term, heart disease, but the commonest in public knowledge, in public domain, the commonest disease that catches our imagination when we talk about heart disease is heart attack or blockage in the heart. But that is just a part of the heart disease. There are numerous other types of heart diseases also, and so many types of heart disease require specific therapy. So why it is so important to know about heart disease? As we know that the current evidence, the current literature suggests that heart disease is the number one cause of suffering and death in the world. I mean that the number of deaths caused by heart disease is equal to the number of deaths caused by cancer, accident, and other causes combined. So heart disease almost contributes to 50% of the total deaths in the world. And the other everything, all the other causes, they contribute to 50%. When we talk about India, India is a special place in the world because you see, India is an ethnic museum. We call India as an ethnic museum. Some part of the India they resemble the European, some part of India they resemble the African, some part resemble the Chinese. So all these ethnic groups, somehow there is too much genetic mixing in India, and that gives rise to a unique propensity or unique risk of heart disease in India. When we talk about the incidence or the age of onset of heart disease, the mean age of onset of heart disease in India is 55 years, whereas in the Western population, when we talk about US, UK, Europeans, the mean age of onset is around 65 years. So in India, we develop heart disease 10 years earlier than the Western population. Not only it is earlier, there is another aspect to heart disease in India, and that aspect is that the incidence of more serious heart disease, like blockage affecting multiple coronary arteries, presence of multiple blockages, is more common in India. So in India, in the context of heart disease, we are hit early and we are hit harder. When we talk about the prevalence of heart disease, so in India, heart disease is the number one killer, and it kills the close to more than 10 lakhs people in a year. So that's a very scary figure. It's okay, but then who are the person who are affected by heart disease, or what causes heart disease? Everybody asks. Many of my patients will ask, "Ki ye kyun hua? Why this happened? Why heart attack happened in this person?" So Heart disease is a non-communicable disease. There is no single cause for heart disease. For example, when we talk about malaria, we know that malaria is caused by Plasmodium. So there is a single cause for malaria. Malaria, one disease, one cause, Plasmodium. But when we talk about heart disease, it is a multifactorial disease. It is not a single cause, but multiple factors will affect the heart disease, cause heart disease. What are the multiple factors? There are few multiple factors which we cannot change, which are called non-modifiable risk factors, like increasing age. With increasing age, our arteries become stiff, our arteries become diseased, and that leads to heart disease. That's a natural aging process. We cannot change that. Second, family history or genetics. Family history, if the parents or siblings, if anybody has heart disease or blockage or heart failure, so there is an increased chance of developing heart disease. It is our genetics. We cannot change that. Then there are few modifiable risk factors, things which can be modified, which can be controlled. So one of the most important modifiable risk factors is smoking. Smoking is something which someone can stop. So first is smoking. Second is diabetes mellitus. So people with diabetes have the highest incidence of heart disease. Almost 70% of diabetic patients, they die because of heart disease. So heart diabetes. Third is hypertension, high blood pressure. High blood pressure is the third common cause of heart disease, because presence of heart disease can produce weakness in the heart muscles, can produce blockage in the arteries. It will not produce, but it will help accelerate, increase the risk of blockage in the arteries. Then cholesterol problems. So somebody who has high cholesterol, who has high LDL, is likely to develop heart disease. Apart from these traditional risk factors, there are other risk factors like obesity. Someone who is overweight, obese, has a high risk of heart disease. Then less intake of fruits and vegetables, more intake of processed and high calorie, high fat, trans fats is likely to produce heart disease more. Then finally, it is very important, who is mental stress. Any type of stressful situations also cause activation of the sympathetic nervous system in the body. The activation of the sympathetic nervous system will produce increased stress in the coronary arteries, in all the arteries and coronary arteries especially, and that can produce hemodynamic instability, that can produce autonomic instability, which again gives rise to heart disease. So, heart disease is okay, but then what are the types of heart disease that will develop because of these risk factors? So first and foremost is the blockage in the heart disease, which we call coronary artery disease, or disease that affects the coronary arteries of the heart. The coronary arteries are a type of artery or blood vessel which supply blood to the heart muscles. So what is heart? Heart is basically a contracting muscle. So from the sixth week of life, till our last moment, till death, the heart is an organ which continuously pumps blood tirelessly, whether we are sleeping, whether we are resting or working, whatever. So from beginning of life to the end of life, it is one organ which constantly functions without any rest. So to function, the heart muscles also need nutrition, and that nutrition is supplied by the blood flow to the heart, and that blood flow is through the coronary arteries. So first, most important type of heart disease is coronary artery disease, or blockages in the coronary artery disease. Once there is blockage in the coronary artery, the amount of blood flowing through those arteries will be reduced. It is simple. It is a simple analogy. Like any pipe, if there is a jam, if there is a blockage in the pipe, the amount of water coming through that will be reduced. So in a similar analogy, the amount of blood flowing through an obstructed coronary artery will be reduced. So why it is important? If it is reduced, so what? So what happens is, once the supply is less, but the heart muscle is a constant demand. It needs certain amount of blood to function at a certain level. So patient who have mild degree of blockage will be able to do their normal household activity, will be able to take bath, will be able to dress, undress, take self-care without any problem. But the moment they start doing more strenuous activity, suppose our resting heart rate is 60, resting pulse rate is 60, but many of us, you might have noticed that when we are jogging, when we are doing exercise, when we are doing heavy work, we feel a sense of sort of breath. Our heart rate goes up, our chest pound, our heart starts pounding. So for that to occur, increased amount of blood needs to be supplied to the heart, and that is the function of the coronary arteries, to provide the increased demand, to supply for the increased demand. Once there is blockage in the coronary arteries, it cannot provide adequate blood when the demand of the heart increases. So that is the initial manifestation. With exercise, the person will start developing some discomfort. As the level of blockage goes on increasing, the level of activity that a person can tolerate goes on decreasing. Excuse me. Finally, a stage comes when a person is unable to do any activity without discomfort. We call that class 4 symptoms. So symptoms can be class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4. A person who is unable to perform any activity without chest discomfort is called a class 4 person, and he needs emergent medical care. So that is one. It is called coronary artery disease. Then there is something which is called heart failure. Heart failure means the heart muscle is not able to pump adequate amount of blood. So one thing is that it is not getting adequate blood supply, that's why the heart muscle is not able to pump, or the heart muscle itself can get damaged. Because now see, even in the COVID era, because COVID virus can directly affect the heart, causing myocarditis or damage to the heart muscle, direct damage to the heart muscle. Similarly, there are many other causes of direct damage to the heart muscles. So that produces weakness of the heart muscles to pump adequate amount of blood. Ultimately, the function of the heart is to pump regularly. So if it is unable to pump, it is called heart failure. So that is another type of heart disease. Then third type of heart disease is cardiac arrhythmia. What is arrhythmia? A heart has a rhythm. The heartbeat is a tightly controlled rhythm. So it will beat for between 60 to 100 times per minute. The beatings will be very regularly interval, and it will contract in a specific sequence. It is not that the cardiac heart muscle contraction, the beating of the heart is a extremely precisely controlled activity. It is not an uncontrolled, or it is not a chaotic disordered activity. It is one of the most extremely precisely controlled activity. So that's why the heart has a specific rhythm. When that rhythm is disturbed because of any cause, it is called arrhythmia. Arrhythmia, that means disturbed rhythm. So that is the third important cause of heart disease. Arrhythmias can be felt as some episodic palpitation when the heartbeat will go increase suddenly, it will go 180, 200, 220, or the most seriously it can cause sudden death also, where a person will drop dead. Many of us might have heard stories about a person suddenly dropping dead. He was okay the previous minute or the previous second, suddenly within 2 seconds he died. So that can be because of a dangerous arrhythmia. Okay. Finally, there are less common causes like the disease that affects the covering of the heart. It is called pericardial disease. Pericardial disease will basically present with heart failure. And then there are other causes like non-cardiac diseases that affect the heart. It can be because of a problem in the chest, a mediastinal problem. It can be because of the arteries that supply, or the veins that supply the heart. There can be an SVC syndrome, there can be an aortic aneurysm. So these are all the other types of heart diseases that can be there. So Now, a common question that is sometimes asked to me, or sometimes people ask, is what is heart fail and what is heart failure, or heart attack and heart fail. So these are two, and there are three things actually: heart attack, heart fail, and heart failure. They are totally different things. So a heart attack is basically, in medical terminology, it is called myocardial infarction. Heart attack is myocardial infarction. That means a sudden total occlusion of a coronary artery. So an artery was flowing blood, but it develops an acute and total occlusion of the coronary artery so that no blood can flow through that coronary artery. It is called an heart attack or myocardial infarction. So that's what we see when we, when we talk about heart attack, this is what we are talking, that a sudden and complete stoppage of blood supply to the heart. But it is not, there are normally three coronary arteries, so all the three do not develop occlusion at the same time. If all the three develop occlusion at the same time, the person will die within 2 minutes. But only one of the arteries, most commonly only one of the artery will develop an occlusion. So that is heart attack. Then what is heart fail? Heart fail is basically cardiac arrest. That means the heart has stopped pumping suddenly. When a person suddenly drops dead, it is called heart fail. It is basically, in medical terminology, it is cardiac arrest. The heart is arrested. It is no longer contracting. It is no longer supplying, pumping blood. And heart failure is what I just now discussed, that the inability of the heart to pump blood according to the need of the body is a heart failure. So these are the three colloquial terms, common terms, which sometimes get confused, but they're very distinct terms with distinct meaning. So what will happen if a heart disease is left untreated? The person will die, to say bluntly. Because you see, when we talk about heart disease, there is always the dangling danger, the great danger of death, because heart disease is highly likely to lead to death. So if a heart disease is left untreated, the end result is death. And that's very common actually in case of heart disease. However, before that, there will be a long period of suffering. Like a patient will develop angina, that is chest pain, where he will be unable to walk. Then he can have the breathing difficulties, and then he can develop progressive heart failure, progressive restriction of physical activity. That's why it's very important to treat heart disease adequately, properly, and completely. So there is, it's not an option to not treat heart disease, because invariably it will lead to suffering and death. So how important are these risk factors? The risk factors, there are five traditional risk factors that we have discussed. So how important are these risk factors? Like, how important is diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol management, then family history? So all these risk factors are very important. Suppose we say that even in the world, 33% of the cardiac suffering, 33% of the heart attacks can be attributed to smoking. So that means smoking is the single most important economical and beneficial bad habit that we can give up. So wherever we are, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, at how many years you might have been smoking, quit now. It's easier said than done. So there is entire therapy, entire system available how to quit smoking, and most importantly, how to remain quit. So that is one thing. Then adequate control of blood pressure definitely will reduce the risk of heart disease. For the information of my listeners, those who are smoking, if they give up smoking today, so in 3 to 5 years, their risk of heart disease will come to the level of a non-smoker. So the effect of smoking will be gone after 3 to 5 years of stoppage of smoking. Similarly, hypertension, if we treat adequately hypertension, adequate with good control, with proper drugs, whether it is combination drug or single drug, but level of hypertension, if it is properly controlled, the risk of developing heart disease substantially comes down. But the story is little complicated with diabetes, because diabetes, even if it is well controlled, it will slow the develop heart disease, but invariably it will lead to some form of heart disease. But the good news is, still it will slow the development of heart disease. A proper well controlled diabetes with a well controlled lifestyle, well controlled medical therapy, drug therapy, the risk of heart disease will definitely come down. Similarly, for cholesterol, in the cholesterol management, when we talk about cholesterol, cholesterol is a very important risk factor for heart disease. There is some rare genetic disease which is called homozygous hypercholesterolemia. That means the LDL levels will be something more than 600 in those children, small children. And you will be surprised to know that in this group of patients, the homozygous hypercholesterolemia with cholesterol levels more than 600, they develop heart disease by the age of 8 years. By the mean age of 8 years, they will develop heart disease. So that proves the importance of well control of cholesterol, because cholesterol is elevated cholesterol is a very important risk factor for heart disease. Okay, so what to do? It sounds very scary. It sounds very disheartening to listen to all this. So what to do? So the good news is nothing is lost. Everything can be controlled. Cardiology is one of the most advanced field in the entire medical science. So now we have treatment for all aspects of heart disease, including heart transplant. So the good news is, it is now all the therapies are very advanced. So all the treatments are available, but more important is prevention. Prevention is when we prevent the development of heart disease, and treatment is the disease is already developed. Now we are treating it to prevent further complications or further worsening. So importance is the prevention part, because there we prevent the disease from developing. But in treatment, the disease is already there. We are just trying to prevent the bad effects of the disease, or we are trying to prevent the complications of the disease. So how do we reduce the risk of heart disease? How do we prevent? That's a very nice question. There are entire science dedicated to preventive cardiology. But mota, one is good control of diabetes, low carbohydrate diet. We can increase our protein intake. We can restrict the fat intake to good fat, not the trans fats, all the saturated fats. But we have to reduce the carbohydrate intake, because in India, the prevalence of insulin resistance, one of the main pathophysiological mechanism for diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, obesity, is very high. So we need to control the insulin resistance in India. So that's why good control of diabetes, good control of hypertension, 1 hour of physical exercise every day. It does not need going to the gym. Simple walking for 1 hour every day is enough. Then a good diet. Like I have told, restrict sugar intake. Sugar is the new smoking. Sugar is the new poison. So all sugars, whether it is, we should immediately, stop taking any sugary beverages, like so many available in the market in the form of cold drinks. We should avoid them. We should not take packaged juice, because packaged juice contain lot of sugar. So sugar is the new poison. We should avoid sugars. Then smoking is the most important risk factor that can be prevented. It will save money, but more importantly, it will save our life also. Okay, then what measures we should take to be healthy? So healthy is a big thing. It's a very big term. To be healthy means to be healthy physically, mentally, socially, spiritually. So it's a big term, but I will just to touch upon being healthy in the physical way. The best thing is to go for a regular exercise. The best thing is to have some self-discipline and not to go into substance abuse and addictions. So how much exercise we should do? Because it is easy to tell that you should exercise, but then we need specific guide about everything. How much we should exercise? Put on your shoes and start walking for 30 minutes every day, or 30 minutes 5 times in a week. So that comes to around 150 minutes of moderate or brisk walking. But remember that because of some problem, suppose somebody has a knee problem, somebody has had a fractured leg or something, and they are not able to do a brisk walking, it's okay. Still, moving around or walking for 30 minutes or 45 minutes is much better than not doing at all. So, I mean, it is not the speed or it is not the pace that matters. It is the act of walking that is important. Even if there are some orthopedic problems, some joint problems, some neurological problems, still try to have some mobility in life. And then dietary, of course, dietary interventions will be helpful. Next, that heart attack. So difference between heart attack and heart failure. Okay, we know that heart failure is a very important part. When we talk about heart failure in India, the prevalence of heart failure is very high actually in India because of multiple causes. Heart failure is again a big disease. It is a term for a number of diseases. It is not a single disease. Heart failure is not a single disease. All the problems in our valves can be produce heart failure. Then all the problems in our heart muscles, in the covering of the heart, can produce heart failure. That comes to the causes of the heart failure. So causes of the heart failure are weakness of the heart muscles and all the other things that we have discussed. So how to prevent heart failure? Okay, very good question. How to prevent heart failure? So to prevent heart failure, we have to take care of all the other things also that lead to heart failure. Most important is coronary artery disease. Throughout the world, in India, the number one cause of heart failure is actually blockage in the heart or coronary artery disease. So to prevent that, as I have already discussed, there are 5 traditional risk factors, and we should try to prevent those. That will prevent the development of coronary artery disease. That can subsequently lead to prevention of heart failure. To prevent heart failure per se, we have to maintain a healthy heart by doing regular exercise. If you are able to do some weight training, if you are able to do some strength building exercises, that is even better. Cardio exercises are something we need to do every day. Okay? Lifestyle measures, that means lifestyle measures like exercise, being active, avoiding sedentary life, avoiding packaged foods. I always say to my patients when they ask about dietary advice, you do one thing: you just stop taking all the packaged foods, whether it is breads, biscuits, or whatever, mixtures, whatever. You just stop taking packaged foods, because highly processed foods contain lot of ingredients, whether it is oil, whether it is processed carbohydrates, which are not good for diabetes and the heart. So the heart failure, again, one of the important causes of heart failure is person who have survived a heart attack. So those who have survived a heart attack, normally after heart attack, the heart muscles, some part of the heart muscles become dead actually after heart attack. So that dead portion of the heart does not contribute to the global functioning of the heart. It does not contribute to the pumping functioning of the heart. So that gives rise to heart failure. So basically the heart failure is because of the heart attack. So that's why it is important. And that's why those are the consequences of a heart attack. That it can land up in heart failure, it can result in death, it can result in dangerous arrhythmias also. So another way that people who survive a heart attack, how should they live? So that's a very good question. Sometimes many of my patients at discharge after a heart attack ask this question, that what should I eat now? What should I do now? So normally after a heart attack, because a portion of the heart muscle is damaged, we have to allow sufficient time for the heart muscles to heal. Whether you have received a stenting treatment or not, whether it has been medically managed and no stenting or angioplasty was done, in every case, it is advisable to go for restricted physical activity or go for a rest for 4 to 6 weeks for the to allow the heart muscles to heal properly. After that, we start a graded exercise. We go for grade morning walks, or we go for walking for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Then we gradually, on a weekly basis, we increase the duration of our physical activity. As far as diet is concerned, take a high protein diet, restrict salt intake, and water intake should be optimized according to the pumping capacity of the heart. Suppose if someone whose heart pumps at say 35%, and such patients have to restrict their water intake. All patients with heart failure will have to restrict their water intake and should be around 1 liter per day. But if the heart function is fine, if there are no symptoms of heart failure, then a person can take more liberally water. Among the comorbidities, the most important is diabetes, because diabetes, as I say, that in India now we have around 15 crore people with diabetes. So that's why we have the infamous title of being the diabetic capital of the world. So that's very infamous, inglorious, but that's what the fact is. We are the diabetic capital of the world. We are the hypertension capital of the world. We are the heart disease capital of the world. And people with diabetes have a special propensity for developing heart disease. So signs and symptoms of heart, how to identify that somebody with diabetes is a heart disease. Again, the important, they can develop all the classical symptoms of heart disease. So the symptoms of heart disease are chest pain, difficulty of breathing, then swelling of the extremities, and difficulty to sometimes breathing problems while lying down more, or loss of consciousness, transient loss of consciousness. Well, a patient was okay, but suddenly he becomes unconscious for 1 or 2 seconds or 5 seconds. Then he spontaneously recovers completely. But in diabetes, the difference is the incidence of chest pain is much less, and they usually develop other complaints like extreme fatigue, breathing difficulty. So chest pain, so it is diabetics are more prone to have silent attacks. Silent attacks means they will develop some symptoms but not chest pain. And the steps for prevention of heart disease, when we are talking about diabetic population, first is the tight control of the diabetes. We have to be very cautious about our blood sugars, diabetics, and then all the other healthy lifestyles. They should exercise more. Someone who, a non-diabetic, can have some relaxation, but a diabetic can have no relaxation. They have to be very cautious, very careful about their heart health. So exercise for 1 day, restrict your carbohydrate intake, restrict your sugar intake should be 0, carbohydrate intake, high protein, moderate fat diet will be good for them. Similarly for hypertension, the same advice for hypertension, because I'll tell you one fact about the fallacy of hypertension. So it is called the law of 1/3. That means among all the hypertensives in India, only 1/3 will be diagnosed. It is actually half, the law of half. Among all the hypertensives, only half of those will be diagnosed. Among those diagnosed, half will receive treatment. Among those treated, only half will be adequately treated to control it properly. So that makes around 25% of the total hypertensive population are adequately controlled. So even sometimes our patients, our own people also experiment. They will stop hypertension drugs for a few days, then the BP will start increasing, then they will again start their drugs. So all these type of self experiments should be discouraged, should not be done. And hypertension, only 25% of the hypertensives are actually adequately treated with well controlled. So in hypertension, the first and foremost important thing is control of the hypertension. The proper control of the hypertension with a target blood pressure is around 130/80. And heart disease, so hypertension control will lead to reduction of the heart disease. Obesity. Now the problem is a obesity pandemic. I mean, it is very surprising to know that in India, in a country like India, more people die of obesity than of hunger. So there is hardly any hunger deaths now in India, very rare hunger deaths in India, starvation deaths in India. But the deaths due to obesity is very high. So prevalence of obesity is very high in India. in some of the urban population that have been studied, the obesity of the prevalence of obesity is even more than 20%. And when we talk about the overall Indian population, it is still not less than 10%. People are obese actually. And obesity is a playground for all types of disease, whether it is hypertension, whether it is diabetes, whether it is cancer, whether it is heart disease, whether it is respiratory disease, psychological problems related to body image, self-image. So obesity is one disease which is a playground, which is at the root of so many diseases. And there was a trial called Interheart study where they have clearly shown that there is an association between obesity and heart disease. Childhood obesity, especially it appears that childhood obesity, because now because of this lockdown, because now the schools are all closed, all our kids are sedentary, watching all these phones or tablets every day, I mean most of the time, because schools are closed, playgrounds are closed, so they have a unique propensity to develop obesity. And obesity is a hormonal disease, basically. Obese people tend to remain obese because of the change in the hormonal environment of the body. So it has been shown that childhood obesity is an independent risk factor for heart disease, because most of the children who are obese tend to remain obese or so, and that gives them to an early exposure to the risk of heart disease. And obesity, it is easier said that lose weight, but it is very difficult because obesity is a hormonal disease. It's a very complex problem, and it develops slowly over a long time. So we should have the patience, we should have the commitment, the attitude to reduce our body weight, to maintain our body weight at a reduced level. And that, that can reduce once the incidence of obesity comes down, definitely our blood sugars will be better, our hypertension will be better, our heart disease risk will be much less. And lifestyle controls, again, exercise, diet. So calorie restriction, previously it was the calorie hypothesis that we should reduce the calorie intake, but many things come, the science is also rapidly evolving, and it is better to consult a nutrition specialist that how to change the diet, because present now the current thought is moderate calorie restriction, but important is calorie substitution, that we have to substitute our calories from sugars and carbohydrates with more intake of proteins and moderate intake of fat. I think most of the relevant questions, most of the, common questions, common issues that come in our mind, I have covered. But there are certain questions are there in the chat box, so I'll read those questions, and I will answer those questions. And basically, I will summarize that the symptoms of heart disease are chest pain, difficulty in breathing, then loss of consciousness, and then pedal edema, that means swelling of the feet, sometimes can lead to heart attack, can lead to heart failure. Maintaining a healthy lifestyle is important for prevention of disease. Once the disease develops, taking your drugs properly and lifelong. So I always tell 2 words to my patient, that these drugs you have to take every day and lifelong. So 2 words for drug therapy: every day and lifelong. So always remember these 2 words. You have to take your drugs every day, and you have to take your drugs lifelong. So summarizing this, I'll take the questions now. Some questions are there in the chat box. I'll read those questions and I will answer those questions. So increased heart rate during running or any exercise can be the risk factor for heart disease? Absolutely not. Increased heart rate is a normal response of the body to increased exercise. So that is basically when we are doing increased exercise, the body needs more blood, the muscles need more blood, so the heart will increase the blood supply by pumping more, so the heart rate will increase. So increased heart rate during exercise is not a risk factor for heart disease, it is a good thing. But those who are like marathon runners or those who do regular exercise, their increase in heart rate tends to be lower. That means, suppose a person who is not doing regular exercise suddenly runs 100 meter, his heart rate can go up to 150 or 160. But a person who is accustomed to running who is doing regular activity, if he runs 100 meter, maybe his heart rate will go to 110 or 115, 120 like that. But it is not a risk factor. Next question is, how can one know if he has heart disease or not? Very good question. So that is the question that always bothers us, that whether we have heart disease or not. So the symptoms, the classical symptoms of heart disease are chest pain with radiation to the left arm, especially it increases during exercise or during any form of strenuous activity. Then chest pain is usually associated with difficulty in breathing. When the patient will feel breathless, patient will feel a sense of heaviness or congestion in the chest. Then other things like swelling of the feet, transient loss of consciousness, these are the symptoms of heart disease. So by that time, but here is the catch, if these symptoms develop, then the person already has got a heart disease. But if we adopt a healthy lifestyle, we can prevent heart disease. What are the tests or investigation you recommend for a normal person for cardiac safety? Yeah, it's a good question, but again, when we talk about medical science, we classify persons as according to risk, low risk, moderate risk, or high risk, and the tests and investigations vary according to the risk profile of the patient. The risk profile of a patient, suppose someone who is a low risk, suppose a 30-year-old male who has no diabetes, no hypertension, no family history, no smoking. In such cases, we may not even go for a test for a cardiac evaluation, because clinically the pre-test probability of the person having a heart disease is very low. But of course, if a patient has, when suppose a 30-year-old person presents with symptoms of suggestive of heart disease, then definitely I will investigate that person with maybe ECG, echo, or a stress test and lipid profile probably. But again, a low risk person does not need a routine test. Then a moderate risk person, someone who is suppose a 55-year-old person who has one risk factor, definitely needs more aggressive risk stratification. So one of the ways to risk stratify the person is to first look for risk factors. So they should undergo a blood sugar testing, they should go for a blood checkup of the blood pressure, a lipid profile, and then if all things are fine, they can go for a since the person is moderate risk, it is better to do a stress test either with a TMT or a stress echo or something. If there are any symptoms in an asymptomatic person, I think a risk profiling is enough, no need for a specific cardiac checkup in those persons. But high risk patients like those with long standing diabetes, those with deranged lipid profiles, strong family history, will definitely need more thorough investigations either with cardiac imaging by echocardiography or stress test in the form of TNT, TMT, or stress echo. So that's how we approach to investigations. It is not that all the investigations are written to everyone. First, we have to clinically risk stratify the patient, low risk, moderate risk, high risk, and then we have to plan the investigations. Okay. Next, does taking less salt reduces my risk of heart disease? Definitely. Restriction of salt intake is a single, I mean, it is a very important risk modifier, because increased salt intake will produce increased activation of the sympathetic nervous system, increased activity, increased water retention, that will produce more hypertension. So salt intake is always advisable. Ideally, we should restrict our salt intake to 2 grams per day. That means avoid high salt content food and avoid taking extra salt. Whatever salt is used during cooking is okay, but apart from that, avoid taking any extra salt. Next question is, can a patient with heart failure exercise? What type of exercise will you suggest? Very good question. Even after a heart attack, like I have told, even after a heart attack, we should take rest for 4 to 6 weeks and then we should resume our exercise. Patients with heart failure should also start doing activities, start doing exercise. Initially, they should begin with mild cardiac exercise like going for a walk, as long as they feel good. It is, but never they should never exert themselves. Go for a walk for 15 to 20 minutes initially, then on a weekly basis you can increase by 5 minutes or whatever you can tolerate. And finally, uh, uh, they should do regular walking for at least 30 minutes 5 times in a week. That is the minimum they should be able to do. If somebody can tolerate, they can go for resistance exercise, but at least the recommendation is to go for 30 minutes of walk 5 days in a week. Then what is silent heart attack? Like, it sometimes happens in diabetics, because in diabetic patients there is neuropathy or the nervous system is involved, so they may not develop chest pain. So developing a heart attack without chest pain or without other symptoms is called a silent heart attack. Sometimes we see them in diabetics. One of the common misnomer or one of the common misunderstanding is that people will think of heart attack as, sometimes they will be having heart attack, but then they will think that it is just acidity, or very commonly they called it gas. So that is one of the reason for delayed presentation also. And usually a heart attack is not asymptomatic. Usually there will be some symptoms, but people tend to justify their symptom by some other means. They will either call it acidity or something else, or they will relate to some unhealthy food they have taken previously. But usually it is symptomatic. Most of the time it may not be chest pain. It may be just some discomfort in the abdomen or some burning in the chest, which subsequently reduces. So that is the explanation for silent heart attack. None of the heart attacks can be truly silent, the big heart attacks. Why a patient with heart disease should listen to his heart? Because a patient with heart disease, if he does not listen to all the advice and all the needs of his heart, he is not likely to survive long, to enjoy life. Thank you very much.